I'm on my way back from a long car ride, and I'm going to give you my review of Naomi Wolf's book, Facing the Beast. There's a subtitle as well. I can't recall the subtitle right now. I looked at it just before starting to record this video, but it slipped from my mind, so there you go. I think this is a book that's very much worth reading. I first started to notice Naomi Wolf a few years ago, and I think the first time she ever caught my attention was when she did some seminar, or she gave some talk somewhere. This was just after the Boston bombing, so that was back in like 2013 or so. I think that was the time of the Boston bombing. So I remember her coming out and saying, "Look, we don't know what happened. We can't trust what they tell us on television." And it was like, wow. This lady who had been a part of the liberal intelligentsia and a feminist and fit the profile of somebody that I would not tend to agree with or get along with. Well, it seemed like I kind of had an impression about her that there was more to her, that she was more open-minded, that she was questioning certain things. She might still be a liberal feminist. She seemed like somebody who would be open to talk to others who disagree, and so even back then, I remember she stood out from amongst her kind, if you could, amongst the herd of her kind, if you want to put it that way. Now, the way that she presents herself in this book, however, is she talks as if she were just totally down with the liberal intelligentsia. The New Yorker set, the New York Times reading set. All the cool hip people who go to the right parties, believe all the right things, and dress all the right ways. That she kind of leads the reader to believe, or to get the impression that she was mostly in lockstep with all of them until 2020 happened, until March of 2020 happened, and everything that followed. And when that happened, excuse me, I'll move the phone down here. It's probably safer that way. When that happened, when March 2020 and all that took place, she really questioned what was going on. She more than questioned it. She thought, this is not right. The more she looked around, the more she saw the way that her own quote-unquote tribe was behaving. And when I say tribe, I don't just mean that in the sense of what some of you might think when I say that word. I mean the entirety of the people that she talks about, again, being friends with and hanging around with and having this feeling simpatico with when it came to political, social matters. That she questioned things. She drew attention to things that the authorities were not telling us. She drew attention to misinformation that the powers that be were giving to us, were feeding to us. She just reacted about as violently to the lockdown. By violently, I don't mean that she was violent, but that she had a violently dissident reaction, that her impression of everything that was going on in the country and in the world during that time period, which is what she addresses in Facing the Beast, has gone horribly wrong. She was down on the lockdown. She was down on the forced masking. She was down on all the fear mongering from official sources. She was down on the censorship that was going on when it came time to break out the prickly things, what I've called the barrage here, the needle point. When it came out to break that out, to be injected with the Fauci juice, and they started to say, you have to get this procedure done, even or else we're going to restrict your movement. We'll restrict. You won't be able to work at your job. You won't get to go into places that other people are allowed to go into, and all that, everything that followed. She was just as big as much of an adversary of all of that hysteria and nonsense as anybody was. And she records in her book, she talks about how this had some real social consequences for her. And she's very honest and open about it. She talks about how she felt earlier, before 2020. Again, if my memory serves, she started to seem a little bit, I think she was starting to go off the reservation, several years prior to 2020, but maybe she never went off the reservation enough for her friends and allies and everybody in her so-called tribe to really think too badly of her. I don't know. It's possible. I would think that if one of those people saw her presentation about the Boston bombing that I remember seeing back in 2013, that they would have had some serious problems with her, because these are, the neocon, neoliberal, ideological establishment. They are very rigid. They are very our way or no way. And that's only gotten worse, of course, since 2020. But anyway, so regardless of my memory, her memory is, or the way that she relates her story is, she talks about how she was shunned by all of her friends, just about. How they stopped talking to her. How she stopped getting invitations to go. Well, I mean, she was like, since she hadn't taken the juice, she wasn't really allowed to go places, because she lives in the Northeast, and this is around the time that they were enforcing vax passports, having to have vax IDs in order to being able to enter Manhattan restaurants and all of the Tony, liberal intelligentsia kind of places that she used to frequent. She was at Yale. She went to Yale, so she relates how she developed this reverence for Yale because she wasn't from she wasn't from a blue blood family. She got into Yale via a scholarship. She was from a middle class family, but the whole atmosphere of Yale and of higher education and the sort of do's and don'ts of living in that world, coming down to how you dress, what you do and don't talk about, what the kind of proper clothes to wear for certain types of parties and so forth. She knew all of those things, and she had internalized them, and she really thought that the life that she lived was really quite keen. She was keen on it. She thought, isn't it a good thing for me that I have that I'm amongst the pundit class? I think she worked. She was like an advisor to Clinton and Gore, I believe, and maybe other people as well, other similar people. And isn't it wonderful to be who I am and to have the kind of friends that I have and to be amongst the smart set. And then in this two-year period from 2020 to 2022, she's absolutely deserted by all of them and treated horribly by them. And so this book is interesting not only as a critique of what was done to us during the years 2020 through 2022, roughly speaking. But it's also interesting as the record of a person who was an insider. And I guess that for all of her quirks, Naomi Wolf was still an insider. But somebody who followed her convictions, and her convictions led her in the exact opposite of direction of where conventional wisdom was not just suggesting but commanding that she go. And the steep price that she paid, socially speaking, she talks about this a lot. In the book, the book's strengths are, I think, largely when they dwell on her story, when they dwell on the obvious injustices and just ridiculous sorts of events, the ridiculously draconian kinds of restrictions that were imposed, and in her part of the country, particularly, again, if she lived in the state of Georgia, like I do, and like I did during that time period, it wasn't nearly as bad. It was fairly minor, but I know that for that area of the country, for the Northeast, for the New York area, that those environs, and especially amongst the liberal intelligentsia, if you weren't down with Fauci, then with Fauci and company, with Pfizer and company, then you're persona non grata. You're a traitor to the cause. And I think that she is very honest, in her response to all of that. And I think it makes for a compelling read. I think there are certain chapters that are less interesting than others. I don't think it's not all prime rib from beginning to end. There's a bit of fat that could have been trimmed out, but I would say all in all that this is a good read for people who were lockdown dissidents, or maybe who came late to the party, maybe who believed what they were told initially and then came around to see all the problems with it. And just to hear the story, because we don't often hear the story about an insider who turns her back, not meaning to. In fact, it's more accurate to say she was an insider, but then she became an outsider because her fellow insiders turned their backs on her, almost to a person. And she speaks. You can see that she's actually heartbroken, as well as infuriated by the fact that the friends that she thought she made, that she thought were good friends, that she thought would stick with her through all the vicissitudes of life, well, they were leaving her behind because she was guilty of wrongthink. So, hearing from the perspective of an insider, I think is very interesting and very valuable. And she reports very honestly, and doesn't hold back, and doesn't try to make herself seem more noble or like she doesn't present herself as somehow being above the fact, the shunning. Like she admits that being shunned was a terrible thing, and she's still angry about it. But she's also, she says, grateful for all the new friends that she has made, which is basically, the other half of the country, you might say. So, those are my thoughts about Naomi Wolf's book, Facing the Beast. I do recommend it. Give it a read, see what you think. Thanks for watching, even though there hasn't been much to watch.